Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Distinguished panel members, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this very interesting panel discussion that we have today on a topic that is a significant interest all over the world. While generative AI technology has been fermenting for years, and technologies like ChatGPT are the result of many years of hard work and dedicated efforts by AI specialists in many places, the reality is that for most of us practicing in other fields, the impact has been sudden and taken everyone by storm. As a global CIO of Al Khan University, an international university and hospital system that spans multiple countries and campuses, questions about AI have come quickly to the fore among both hospital and academic leaders. Discussions have already begun on how can we leverage AI technologies to better serve our students and patients. How can we innovate and improve existing customer services? How can we achieve faster turnaround time or have more informed discussions? How can we better automate manual functions? And then there is the other side. How do we ensure academic integrity, that students are genuinely conducting and submitting their own coursework? Is this their own work writing in an assignment or was it written by ChatGPT? If it is okay to use a calculator to help us solve mathematical problems, it is then not okay for ChatGPT to serve as a tool to help or facilitate our written expressions. So ChatGPT and the seemingly sudden advent of other AI solutions that can speak our language has massively changed the playing field. And many of us are still waking up and trying to see what that playing field looks like. That is why I'm excited to be moderating this important discussion with an expert panel who are connecting from USA, Switzerland, Kingdom of Bahrain, and United Arab Emirates. Our distinguished panel members including Dr. Jassim Hazi, who is the President, International Group of Artificial Intelligence, and Executive Advisor to His Highness Sheikh Nasir AI and Artificial Intelligence R&D Center, Kingdom of Bahrain. We have Venkatesh Mahadan, a technology evangelist, global chief information officer, board member. He was serving as the CIO Dubai Investment Bank, uh, director information technology for Motorola. He used to be group general manager for IFCO and many other positions. I was just looking at his profile and he has been the CIO since 1994. So it's really, really amazing. Francesca Bosno, Senior Advisor, Cyber Peace Institute, Geneva, a very well-reputed professional from our European Union. And then we have Anzar Hassan, is the chair IEEE Consumer Technology Society USA. Also, he's the vice president strategy, digital and innovation for the Forward USA. And also we have an inspiring young talent, young entrepreneur, Fiza Shokat. She has recently won the first prize from the president of Howard University. She is running her startup from Howard Innovation Lab. So one of inspiring and young entrepreneur. So I would start with the questioning Dr. Jassim. And my request would be, after my question, just give a little intro about your organization, and then maybe you can jump on answering the question. So, Dr. Jassim, how do you see the role of ChatGPT in the future of conversational technology?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. رب اشرح لي صدري يسر لي أمري احلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. First of all, I must apologize. I'm from Bahrain, but sitting in Dubai airport. I'm boarding in 10 minutes. And if we continue this discussion, I'll be over Qatar in a few minutes. So intelligent, this conversation with a mess in my journey. But I do wear a few hats. One of them, International Group of Artificial Intelligence, and then we have about 550 members over 30 countries, disseminating information on AI worldwide and through conferences, white papers, etc. And also, heading an AI research development center in Bahrain, formed 2 years ago, and is under the name of His Majesty the King's son, Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa. We develop local AI solutions through, chatbots and integration with ChatGPTs, predictions, computer visioning for the industries of oil and gas, banking, etc. So that's very high level on what we do on the ChatGPT. Actually, I'm coming from the conference just yesterday and today about the data-driven governments, especially in GCC, and chairing that conference, had a lot of good discussions with the government officials about data, and more the Gulf Cooperation Council and the Middle East, we see more of integral part of AI and data coming under one roof. But still we struggle with identify what is data, who owns the data. Is data, medical data belongs to the health sector and banking to others. This is the struggle that we still have, but all over the place. If there are no sharing of data, you can put them in a virtual area, there'll be a problem. So with ChatGPT that's blown up, it changed the whole concept of digital transformation. I don't think there is anything called digital transformation anymore. It's called digital intelligence. So everybody was hiding under the transformation for many years now. Intelligence is a different aspect with provision of the generative AI, of course, is always about who starts it with OpenAI, but there are more, I think, solutions that are coming up. Some of them they can't keep up with GPT because they keep upgrading and taking, for instance, Tal-Ease, they're taking the medical generative AI and putting the video, everything under one. And in October, we're expecting to see GPT-5, which is going to be very close to what we thought is going to be in 2050, and that's artificial general intelligence, AGI. So, if we continue in the development that's happening and the pace from like third, fourth quarter last year, we're going to be in reaching in that probably in the next 2 years.
Very, very interesting, Dr. Jassim. The conversion from digital transformation to digital intelligence. It's really, really interesting. So, how can we ensure that AI and chat boxes are accessible and inclusive for all users, regardless of their technical expertise? How
Well,
can
I
we?
think, look, before getting to ChatGPT, all the indications was, about the programming languages or no code, zero code, or no code, low code. That was coming up anyway in the artificial intelligence to produce uh, professionals with ability to be able to create AI solutions without having a technical knowledge. But now is taking a step forward. But that's with the ChatGPT to writing essays, etc. But there are dangerous parts out of it as well. Although it's very careful to not let a bias or what we call probably plagiarism or dangerous acts to happen, but still with working around it, especially if you know how it works. A layman can write today a code or obtain a code how to hack a network. See how dangerous that can be done through GPT. It can write you the entire code, and I look at it, and it's probably better work than many of the programmers to be able to do that. So there are parts that keeps going counter back and forth. The universities for many years they had something called Turnitin. I'm sure you heard of it, and you use it for the bachelor degrees, master degree. They throw everything in the Turnitin, and universities have different level of plagiarism. They said, okay, 8%, above that is a plagiarism. So you put your essay there, and it shows you. Now, plagiarism system of Turnitin, but all the respect, is out of date. Because when you get it from ChatGPT and throw it in, and we tried it with one of the university professors, out of ChatGPT with all the references, you throw it there and it shows you 0%. The entire thing was plagiarism, and it shows you 0%. So universities will have that challenge. They will have to work around it, and of course, as they put protections, the students get smarter. So it's a challenge to come, and we'll see how it goes.
And that's very interesting to hear. Of course, we all discuss about the benefits and the amazing things, but at the same time, sometimes we just ignore the challenges it entails. So before going to Venki, just the last one with you, Dr. Jasim, is how ChatGPT be integrated with other artificial intelligence technologies to create more advanced conversational systems based on the research you are doing and the expertise you have.
Yeah, I think that wrong-footed every chatbot that was available, including the big fives. They were working more on the different languages and trying to through unsupervised machine learning or reinforcement machine learning. Now getting to the deep learning is a different angle to that. So you will have to provide an interface with ChatGPT or somehow have interaction with them for any chatbot. Now they look like beginners, all other ones that are conversational or virtual assistant that are available, and we were never part of it. One last thought before we leave: the security aspects. The more AI now driven attacks are happening in this world and on your networks. So is it time that we say enough is enough? We can't defend our networks with the traditional equipment, even those big five security providers. They're too old, too cumbersome. We need AI to defend the AI, the machine learning. Otherwise, you're too slow to look at the patterns that is monitored, or the ransomwares that they put, or the malwares that are placed in your network. So AI need to counterattack on the defense as much as the attack. And AI will play two roles. One is to look at how you protect your network. The other one is how to develop itself to become more intelligence, and to effectively stop the hackers entering the AI. Because if you try to change the deep learning's algorithms, then you don't need to go to the network. You have everything. You can be smart and change it, and also penetrate other places. So with that, I have to excuse myself. Otherwise, I will have to end up staying in the hotel another night. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you very much for the
See you all,
insight. So
guys.
I think we had a good. This actually drive us towards looking some aspects from the customer point of view. So Venki, my question to you is, based on your vast experience in multiple institutions so far leading technology, how can ChatGPT be used to improve customer service and user experience in various industries?
So thank you very much. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening. When you say vast, Shaukat, it certainly makes me feel very old, but I would assume I'm very young for the purpose of this discussion. But yeah, so, ChatGPT has the potential to significantly improve customer service and user experience across various industries. By using natural language processing and machine learning algorithms, ChatGPT can understand and respond to user queries and concerns in a conversational manner. This can lead to faster response time and improved accuracy in addressing customer issues. Guys and girls, I can see the look on your face. So pardon me, in spirit of this panel discussion, I actually asked ChatGPT to answer this question, and this is what I got. So what I read out was actually from ChatGPT. So pardon me for shocking you guys. And no, Shaukat, you didn't make a mistake calling me on this panel, I promise you. So let me now give you what I believe is the Venki version of it. Over the last couple of years, at least the last 1 year, we must all agree that generative AI has huge potential to be a game changer for business going forward. It will, and I'm saying this with a lot of confidence, it will transform the way companies operate in future. Right? So automation, availability, and scalability. If I were to take away three things, I would take away automation, availability, and scalability. They'll be the three biggest things, or the biggest benefits that a customer service industry can sit back and say, what did I get out of a ChatGPT investment? Or if you as a CIO, you go and make yourself. So for me, it can be used for very, very personalized responses. For example, quick responses to customer inquiries and complaints. ChatGPT can be used like this, right? Because the intelligence. Creating customer emails can be used very easily, very beautiful. We can actually create personalized email templates that ChatGPT can do for you. Replying to customer reviews, and I've seen all of us do put up reviews. All of us do write when we buy either a white good or even a small item worth $10. We put up a review. So ChatGPT can really can be used very effectively, generate a response that can address the customer's concern and say what else can the company do, or what can be a potential solution. Answering FAQs. I mean, there are normally lots of so based on some of the research I've been reading up before, apparently 40 to 45% of the questions that come from the consumers or the concerns are same across the world, which is very surprising for me to hear. So I guess it's true, because if you buy a refrigerator and I buy a refrigerator, I guess the first 5 questions are very similar, right? So I guess that's what it is. And answering them can be very, very effective. So not only responding, but also answering them in a proper way, right? So you can come up with a very, very large knowledge base and then say, pick up and say this what it is. Let me start with a couple of positives, right? For customer service. For me, integrating ChatGPT AI with businesses can provide fast and efficient customer service. Today we have lots of people managing customer support team, large teams, and Shaukat, at the end of the day, and to the entire team here, we are still unhappy because it's like opening your browser, and if it takes 5 milliseconds, we think the internet is slow. So when people do take time to respond to your queries, you believe you are not being treated well as a customer when you are paid $1,000 for a refrigerator, for a television. So I think that's one of the things that ChatGPT can eliminate straight away. And some of these customer service teams can actually be freed up to do other things that can have a higher priority. That's number one. Number two, with ChatGPT, I think you can provide round-the-clock availability and consistency. So it's no longer a question of Venki Mahadevan is tired at 4 o'clock in the evening because he sat on a 2-hour question-answer session with Shaukat. ChatGPT can go on and handle 4 Shaukats at the end of a day and still give as effective or as good an answer. The big difference is, of course, it can continue to be accurate. And also for me, these are really the 3-4 things. And if you look at all of them, typically, Shaukat, if you were to put them all together, my takeaway would be genuinely will be automation, availability, and scalability. So for me, for customer service and user experience, this is the biggest takeaway.
Very interesting, Venki. And recently, I was just reading an article on Howard, and they were saying that even now, 90 days, 180 days are too long for a strategy to run in the GPT world. So it's a rapid part. But of course, this all comes with a lot of concerns that Dr. Jassim mentioned and then you mentioned. So my next question to Francesca, because you are from the Cyber Peace Institute. So based on the work of the institute, what are the potential ethical and privacy concerns around the use of ChatGPT? And while you are answering this question, maybe you wanted to just talk a little bit about the Cyber Peace Institute as well.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot for the opportunity to intervene with the expertise of the institute. So let me start with basically who the Cyber Peace Institute is and what we're doing with the team. So the Cyber Peace Institute is an independent and neutral non-governmental organization that is based in Geneva, Switzerland, but the mandate is global. The mission is to ensure the rights to people to security, dignity, and equity in cyberspace, but clearly also beyond, considering, the interconnection between the, let's say, cyber life and what I would say is the real life. The Institute works in close collaboration with relevant partners to reduce the harms from cyber attacks on people's lives worldwide. And how we do this, we analyze cyber attacks. We want to understand what is the real impact and the harm that they're causing to people, and also how they challenge basically international laws and norms that can be violated, and therefore work with policymakers to advance responsible behavior to enforce a cyber peace. The Institute was founded to answer to a critical gap. So how is civil society and society as a whole affected by cyber threats, which is the role that emerging technologies, and therefore this is why I'm particularly pleased to attend this panel today, like for example AI and notably generative AI, can impact the threat landscape, and again, what is the real harm that they're causing to people. The focus of the work of the Institute is really to enhance awareness, understanding, but also to be able to respond basically to cyber threat, and specifically from a vulnerable sectors and communities point of view. Can we do this alone? No. And this is why I'm particularly pleased to see also the composition of the panel today, because indeed we need to have a sort of a whole ecosystem approach when we think about improving the security baseline of all stakeholders in society, because otherwise, if we don't secure the ecosystem, we will perpetuate and increase the vulnerabilities. Notably, on regarding the recent developments in AI and particularly generative AI, there were some examples already mentioned in the business sphere and also in the academic sphere, thanks to Dr. Yassim. But indeed, is changing, I would say, the threat landscape across all the different sectors in society. And for example, we work a lot both in analyzing the threats to critical sectors like civilian infrastructures, and also to critical actors like civil society organization. To your question specifically, I think I would like also maybe to share some reflection when it comes to the intersection between cybersecurity and AI, because there were some references in the first intervention. Specifically, when we think about ethics and privacy, indeed, considering the community we are specifically working with, I would like to mention just a couple of examples, just to sparkle the discussion, and maybe to and also for the audience to potentially research further. So I think a couple of consideration should be done when we think about algorithmic inequity. So AI models risk perpetuating and reinforcing biases, potentially undermining the principle of social justice and inclusivity that is indeed the champion, let's say, when we think about, for example, the work of NGOs, no-profit in protecting society. I give you some practical example. When we think about humanitarian aid distribution, an NGO might employ an AI-driven tool to analyze data and determine, for example, the allocation of resources to affected communities during a natural disaster or a conflict. Algorithmic inequities stemming from biased training data could result in the AI system disproportionately, for example, favoring certain community over others based on factors such as ethnicity, socioeconomic status, or, for example, geographic location. Thinking about ethics and privacy, again, one of the biggest debate in this moment, and specifically when we think about ChatGPT, is, for example, the digital confidentiality and privacy. Because sensitive information shared via ChatGPT may be compromised, jeopardizing the privacy of stakeholders that are engaged, for example, in civil society initiatives. If we think about the amount of data that development and humanitarian organizations are dealing with, thinking about, for example, database of aid recipients with the names, addresses, phone numbers, and as I said before, even in very sensitive and conflict-affected situations, the conversations are saved and can potentially be shared with other entities or accessed by unauthorized individuals. And the breach of privacy can compromise, for example, not only, again, let's say the privacy sphere, but then it might end up in severely impacting, for example, safety and security of aid recipients. And I just want to finish regarding the more ethical consideration. Indeed, there is always this kind of a struggle, and I really like how it was posed by the two speakers before, meaning we need to strike a balance, right? So between capitalizing on AI advancement and the actually the benefit, indeed, and the advancement that they are providing to the different sectors and the different actors, but at the same time also during the principles of privacy and accountability, mitigating potential harm from biased or inaccurate AI-generated content. One of the issues that I see here is also that often when we talk about like impact and harm, still it's so difficult to define that it's also difficult to measure. So, and therefore it's difficult to let's say to address it in a proper way. I mean, it's important to have the debate like we're having now, because this will continue lead the discussion, and I would also recommend to follow what is currently happening at the EU level, because there was this morning the vote on the EU AI Act, where I mean some specifically some human rights considerations and safeguards were added to the text. Is not, let's say, the end of the process. It's not necessarily I mean a perfect text, but I think that we start entering let's say in the right discussion. What I would like to see, considering ethics and privacy, is that they should be considered by design and they should not be added at the end, as well as when we think about the cybersecurity considerations.
Yeah, thank you, Francisca. It's very important to because this entire this storm is like in November the ChatGPT came. Of course, AI has been there for many years, but this recent storm, and then the challenges in with the privacy, ethics, and then many others. I think it's very interesting to see how those discussions are going in parallel with the actual technology. So we have Anzar, who is a expert in the compliance and risk point of view. So Anzar, based on your experience, what are the potential risks of relying too heavily on ChatGPT in conversational technologies? Of course, we are all now many are introduced towards, but what are the risks for using too heavily into this one?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I think Francisca, Venki, and Dr. Jasem cover everything. I just need to elaborate. So, so as far as the transformation concerned, when I started my career in 1984 in Ministry of Communication, at that time the mindset was processes, people, and technology. Now things are changed so fast. Now people are talking about the digital transformation, and Dr. Jasim says the intelligence transformation. So technically, when you do transformation, there is always risk, and those risks, like right now in America, I'm in Dallas, Texas, and in Europe also GDPR, and in America the privacy is the California Privacy Act, and one breach can have $7,500 per breach is a fine. So privacy is a big deal, and the risk. We cannot lean on ChatGPT or any artificial intelligence model 100%, because we need to have some baseline. Like Francisca says, we cannot 100% at this point in time. Like Dr. Jasim said, 2050, there may be like auto, like Venki said, uh, automation. We will do the automation. We will have like a maturity model of 5, for example. But right now, the risk is the model, that what training model for the chat GPT. The risk is the data, the biased data, like Francisca says, that what type of data and what is the way how we articulate that data. So that will change the whole output. So if we have the input, biased input, we will have a biased output. So we need to have a oversight for anything that we are doing. We need to have validation, like continuous monitoring. We cannot lean a version 2.5 or 5.5 and leave it. We need to cross check. User interface is very important. We need to see the feedback, how, because that in ChatGPT, in any artificial model, when you do the input, if you just change a little bit, rephrase the thing, the output will change. So you need to understand all those constraints. So I will say that at this time, from fintech, I cannot say on behalf of my job, but because I have multiple role. I'm a mentor in the SMU University. I'm the bank. IEEE I joined in 1984. So based on different roles that I am doing, I believe awareness is a very key thing. And second thing is that we need to have the ethics. And as of right now, there is no guidance or baseline available from any of the institution that what should be our threshold for ethics, what should be our threshold for the privacy. People are making a startup, are making a thing. We are focusing more automation. We are focusing more result oriented thing, but we need to evaluate how accurate and how useful those information is. So those are the thing. So answer in nutshell, in answer is that uh, monitoring, oversight, redesigning are the key thing for any product that we may produce.
Thank you, Anzar. And it's great to hear the experienced version from Dr. Justin, Francisca, Venki, and Anzar. And now I have an inspiring young entrepreneur, Fiza Shaukat, who has recently graduated and then started her own company at the Howard Innovation Lab. So, Fiza, based on your experience at the Howard Innovation Lab, what are the key benefits of using ChatGPT and AI? The work you are doing in the startup.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mr. Shaukat. First of all, thank you to all the speakers over here. I don't think I can add much to that because from their experience, I'm sure they've been in some of their much more learning than I do. But I would like to, from a startup perspective and an early stage founder, so at Patient first of all, I would like to tell you a little bit about what I'm doing, and then weave more into how we as startup founders, early stage founders, think about AI, and how we plan to pursue it, and what are some of the things that AI is really and ChatGPT is really helping us as early stage founders to accelerate in this competitive industry, no matter if it's healthcare or other industries. So Patient First AI is developing a smart health card which stores and digitizes all the patient medical records, and then through AI is able to provide personalized care to patients in emerging markets. So that's what we are developing, and we are incubated at the Harvard Innovation Lab, where there are around more than I would say 400 to 500 startups incubated there. And one of the more recent developments is that you see the use of AI in a lot of different industries, and you get to interact with all these different founders. They might be in healthcare, automotive, you name the industry, and there's a startup over there with more students or recent graduates who are very optimistic and very energetic to resolve these use cases. I think the first benefit of, as an early stage founder, to use ChatGPT or AI technologies is number one, personalization, right? And that personalization could be in different aspects. First of all, as a startup founder, we are really responsible for generating leads, maybe sale leads, customer leads, investor leads. And there are a lot of startups that are doing this, but it basically helps to accumulate all your data and reach out to these people in a very personalized way, which is extremely helpful because you are reaching out to more than 100 people in a month or even more, right? So the ability of ChatGPT to consolidate this information in a space where you can now reach out to more of these people in a very quick and efficient manner. Otherwise, it's like people like me drafting emails, thinking about how to reach out to each specific version in a personalized way. So I think sales, marketing, reaching out, inbound, outbound has become really quick because of some of the personalization that ChatGPT is able to acquire and provide us as early stage founders. The second thing is, I think, automation. Like a lot of tasks that we have to do initially as early founders are routine tasks, like set up an organizational structure. Who are our competitors? What are our competitors doing in that market? Most of the information that we had to scram through Google or ask and conduct interviews, we still have to do. It's not that we can just rely on that. I think it's faster now, right? So if I'm in the healthcare industry, I can go on ChatGPT and I can ask, okay, what are the top 20 players within, for example, who's talking about Bahrain? So within Bahrain, campaign, which are doing digital health card and might be implementing something like a smart health card, right? I would have to scrape through multiple versions of Google to do that. But now at least it can give me a consolidated information. Although it's backed up till 2019, that's where ChatGPT information goes through. The most recent might not be there. So I have to still go and conduct some of my research, but at least it gives me a starting point, right? And most of this information was available there, but it was very fragmented in Google. So it gives us that, it just reduces our time and gives us more automation to leapfrog some of that information that we might need to just start our company or think through what are the competitors out there. So as a startup, that's extremely helpful, because no matter what idea you have, the first thing you would want to do is, what are your competitors doing? Because is this something that has a market or not has a market? And I think that's something that really helps us streamline some of our process. I think the last thing I would just add is basically scalability, right? How can you use, so as a startup founder, you might have a lot of information where you're having multiple conversations with people, you might be talking to multiple customers. How do you actually take that, all that information, and condense it and actually have that availability? I think that ChatGPT does a very good job doing that, and that's really helpful as a founder for us to actually streamline some of our processes. So just to sum up, I think personalization, automation, scalability, it's in different aspects within the startup founder of how we are using it in our daily tasks. But I think it puts us at the forefront where we can use a lot of this new tools to leapfrog the systems that we are supposed to build as a founder. So really excited about the opportunities that it plays for founders. But again, we have to be very careful about what information we are using, how much of it is correct, and how much of that is actually useful. And we still have to dive deeper and talk to people to verify that information. We cannot still go around that information. So that still exists as a startup founder.
Great. Thank you, Fiza, for sharing the actual application of where ChatGPT is helping you already in your startup. So let's. My next question is to Venki. Venki, what are the potential implications of ChatGPT's ability to learn and adapt to user behavior and preferences going forward? Because the data is there, but what about the future? So what are your thoughts? You are on mute.
You have all the controversial questions for me, but I'll still answer them. So, yeah, and Shaukat, and I'm sure some of you, Fiza would of course know this better than we do. Google processes about close to 100,000 or 99,000 odd searches per second, right? It probably does about close to 900 million searches per day. And we already have too much. So think about it. We live in a technology. We live in a world where we actually have a tool that's more powerful than what we have been using, right? And if you thought you had enough data, just think about what ChatGPT or AI can do, right? So in a lighter vein, if this were a Hollywood science fiction movie, it would probably be called Technological Monsters and Suffering Humanity or something like that, right? So and then it'll go on and make about $3 billion and come close to Avatar and all that. But is this a boon or a curse? Only time will tell. Maybe if you have a session next year, we'll probably know the benefits and the disadvantages. While there are massive impacts and implications on different industries, I'll pick two, Shaukat, for the sake of brevity. One is I would take education, and Fiza will relate to this easily. I'll take education. Fiza, I was reading a beautiful paper 5-6 months back, I think, written by Harvard. And as usual, they write great papers. And they actually spoke about, and I don't remember the name, they actually spoke about the implications of ChatGPT and what it can do. And they actually have a tool, I forget the name, starting with, I think, Aristo or something. And they said, if Aristo actually writes a paper, it can score 90% marks. So, yeah, really. And this is true. This is Harvard writing a paper. Flip that to India. In India, there is a very large university, very popular university that has actually banned the use of ChatGPT. So anybody caught using it will be expelled. There are accredited international universities in India, again, very, very popular, that are finding alternative uses to ChatGPT. There is a very prestigious university that has gone and said, please stop using ChatGPT. We beg you, do not use, because if you're caught using ChatGPT, you will be expelled or you'll be given 0 marks in the examination. So the education sector clearly at this point of time has not really grappled with this reality. Because if you write a thesis paper, I mean, imagine, I wish I was doing a PhD right now. I would have probably finished writing my thesis in 2 hours. I would have given my ChatGPT some work and gone for a coffee. Right? So, but the reality is education sector is grappling with it. So, so education really, while according to me in the next 2 years, the maximum impact and progress is going to be in the education sector in AI. The concerns are really for the next generation, what to teach, how to teach, right? Earlier, you were worried about people copying from Google or copying your friend's paper. Now you're worried about no copying, but just the use of a computer, right? So it's very concerning. And as you know, ChatGPT, depending on what you ask, it will give you an answer. So we will end up with huge concerns around privacy, and Anzar spoke about it very beautifully. Francisca spoke about it. Privacy. So Francisca, you probably have more work coming your way. So privacy, we be talking about, there will be massive biases. So we'll actually be fighting bias a lot. Human jobs will be replaced. Humans have been complaining ever since computers came. They will complain even more. Human jobs will be replaced. And according to me, there will be a lack of transparency. And this will happen. The reality is you're dealing with a massive monster. You don't know how to deal with. You don't know how to feed. You don't know how to pet. You don't know the size of the cage. You don't know whether you should take it for a walk in the garden or not. But it's arrived. So the sooner we learn to deal with this, the better. It's not going to go away. This is not going away. Somebody asked me a few years back in a panel, should we be confined to technology? Should we stop using technology? I said, you can, and then you'll be cut off from the rest of the world. And this was 5, 7, 10 years back. And it is true. You can't cut yourself off from what is coming. Now, whether it's ChatGPT 4 or 5 or blah, 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 it doesn't matter. But AI is here to stay. It's taken over our life. It's going to take over our life, whether you like it or not. The sooner you educate yourself to get used to it, is better it is, right? So for me, that's a massive thing. The second impact, Shaukat, is really on society. Society is going to grapple with the implications of ChatGPT learning and adapting itself to user behavior and preferences, right? So maybe over a period of time, it will take some time for ChatGPT to understand and start working on your unpredictable user behavior. But for the first 5 times, it will take the way you behave, and it's going to give you responses based on that. That may or may not be the most effective thing you wanted, but that's a reality of that. Society is going to be having to deal with it. Privacy and those concerns remain. Your data is exposed, remains. All that will remain in society and in education. So countries, governments are going to have to struggle with this more than you ever thought. And I will stop with this, really.
Yeah, very interesting, Venki, because one option is, of course, not using it, but then you are cut off from the rest of the world of this amazing innovations.
Yeah.
And especially with ChatGPT, I think before we were doing programming for machine to understand. Now there is a conversation. You just talk to the machine, and then computers understand what you are talking about.
Yeah,
So it's very
Shaukat, people ask ChatGPT how to make an omelette in 2 minutes, or how to make an omelette in 3 steps. How do I propose to my girlfriend? And we have gone away from that. It's moved away from that. So now people are actually using it to draft resignation letters. How do I write a letter to my boss for an increment? Right? So on and so forth. So it's come a long way. It's come a long way.
Yeah. Absolutely, and then, as you rightly mentioned, this also poses a lot of new work for institutions like CyberPeace, Francisco. So my next question is so based on all these new innovations, what are the potential risks and challenges associated with the use of AI in cybersecurity? Because I'm sure that with all these rapid changes, there's a lot of threats involved also.
Thank you so much for the question. And I'm also conscious about time, so I will share just, let's say, a few highlights. I was noting down, well, I think that Dr. Yassim at the very beginning already mentioned some, and I was noting down Fitza was saying before, so on personalization, automation, and scalability, well, exactly the same way that we're thinking about using it as let's say, as individuals or as businesses, well, criminals are thinking exactly about the same thing. So they're thinking about exactly the same potential of AI. So attacks will run in a faster way. They will execute the task at a greater number of times. In the cybersecurity context, scalability will allow an attack to reproduce at a level that has not seen before. And also, what was mentioned before, so due to ChatGPT ability to generate code, it can support malicious actors. So as an example, a malware developer has tapped the generative AI to rewrite code on the fly, so to better avoid to getting detected. At the same time, there are also some, and I really appreciate actually the highlight on this societal dimension. We need to understand the societal dimension when it comes to the impact, but also the societal dimension when we think about malicious actors, because what is happening is that due to ChatGPT's ability to generate code, it might also kind of like democratize in a way the I would say the malicious actors feels when it comes to coding skills. So what's happening is that the ChatGPT and alike are lowering the bar for entry for threat actors with limited technical skills, because technically speaking, they can become in a way sort of like threat actors in a faster and a much more effective way. Regarding the effectiveness, we see that, for example, when we think about the threats, a key area of like improvement also from the criminal point of view is, for example, making phishing campaigns harder to detect and much more efficient and I would say targeted. This is why, I mean, for example, the area of like spear phishing is particularly fostered, let's say, by the use of these AI based tools, specifically generative AI. And I would also like to stress one important point that again is linked to the societal impact. So misinformation and disinformation. AI models can rapidly spread the fake news, and some chatbots are often designed basically to mimic human behavior and tone. So it's not just about the let's say the type of information and the content of the information, but also, as mentioned, the tone of the information, making it very difficult for people to distinguish between content generated by chatbots and humans. And again, if we go back to, I mean, to the aspect of which are the potential impact on society, we need to think about those pockets of society that are already vulnerable because of the contextual circumstances that can be even more vulnerable when fooled basically in by pieces of information, and also that where the disruption that these type of threats is causing might have a concrete impact when we think about people, for example, that are involved into life-saving assistance and essential services, which is, for example, what we are basically seeing as a potential threat in the future, specifically for the organizations that we're working with. Allow me just to mention one thing, that specifically for this reason, and I really like what Venki was saying about like we need to work on the technology, and so considering like privacy by design, ethics by design, security by design, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, we need kind of like to embed this sort of like new mindset also in people, because ultimately are the ones that are consuming basically these tools. And we need really to raise the bar when it comes to, for example, like cyber hygiene related to also the potential threats that are related to AI and generative AI, but also really building the skills because they are not there yet. So we are living a sort of like societal transformation without being equipped in a way and prepared to use the tools that are kind of like fostering this pretty much this revolution. So I think that the discussion about the technological aspects and the business aspects are important, but we need also to prepare society at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, very, very interesting. You're absolutely right that it's very important to actually harness all these technological uh, advancements, but at the same time preparing the societal impacts is equally important. And I'm sure that Cyber Peace Institute will come up with some recommendations in this area also soon. So my next question is answer on how can we ensure that artificial intelligence and chatbots are transparent and accountable in their decision-making processes? Because yes, we are relying on AI and chatbots, but how we ensure that they are also accountable for the decisions?
Um, I think we don't have much time, and if I start speaking, it will take hours. But in nutshell, like Francisca says, that a lot of things we need to consider, and Renke says we need to face this thing. 20 years back, people are afraid to put the credit card online. Now everybody, so we need to impress ourselves. But I think for any future progression, we need to come up industry, regulatory agencies, and standards, and our own baseline. For example, fintech companies, for example, IT company, they need to develop their own baseline. You can say artificial intelligence baseline that everybody is available to put together. I will
I think
suggest, I think in 30 seconds, all I can say that regulatory standards, framework, baseline, awareness are the key prominent data point that we need to consider at each level, from CIO level, from top down to bottom up, from a system administrator level. So if we keep those things, and it is a continuous process, like security is not a one time deal, it is a continuous process. You need to readjust, and those type of we need to adapt. Thank you.
thank you, Anzar. Fiza, my next question. While you answer my question, please also tell us a little bit about the recently your one post has been viral where we learned that you have won the first prize from the Howard University president on one of your projects. So please tell us a little bit about that, and also cover how can startups ensure that their use of ChatGPT and AI in conversational technology aligns with ethical and responsible practices as a startup.
Yep. So I think I told you a little bit about my startup. Basically, Harvard has an inaugural innovation challenge in which all the 13 schools from Harvard, startups from all the 13 schools take part in. This year, around 160 teams applied to it. And there are 4 winners of the 75,000 Innovation Challenge, and we were one of them. So very excited to be a part of that. And then the president of Harvard University basically presented up to the award. It's a 3-month process where we go through different iterations of presenting to VC firms and investors who basically judge our idea based on the innovation team, with the growth that we have done, the how far have we come. So there are different criteria on which they judge us, and we've been really excited that they've been able to note the impact that we are creating, not globally, right? And our vision to basically make healthcare more accessible in emerging markets with our technology, not just with the use of the smart health card, but how we are using AI to actually provide more personalized care to patients. So our mission and vision has really stood out, and we really hope that we're able to, deliver and expand our product globally as we scale in the next year to come. So that's a little bit about why we received the award and the things that that stood out for us. Going around the ethical responsibility that you have actually mentioned is that as a startup, it's very important that, even as you're building your product, you're developing some ethical guidelines. And with basically with ChatGPT, one of the things that really stands out is the information that it's providing us, or the information of how it's delivering. How fair is it? How transparent is it? What kind of accountability is being set up with the data, with the information that they're providing, right? So that's something that I think, as a founder or as a company, each time you're making the decision of using this AI tool that comes in, right? No matter what the industry is, you also have to think about, okay, how are you including ChatGPT? For example, in our use case, we might include ChatGPT in providing personalized care to the patient. So a chatbot which is connected to the ChatGPT, where patients can ask questions about their health, right? For example, if they've been diagnosed with PCOS, and they can ask about, okay, what is PCOS? How can I treat it? That is where most of this ethical guidance come in, is like, what information is ChatGPT providing them from a medical standpoint? Where do you as a company interfere, right? Like what is the correct discrepancy of it, right? It's not that you can just loop ChatGPT in and they can start having a conversation, and then tomorrow there's information conflicts with what their healthcare provider has told them, right? So within the medical field, it becomes really following these ethical guidelines becomes really tricky, and it becomes a matter of then compliancy, such as HIPAA compliancy, GDPR in Europe, and that is something that I feel like will be the biggest challenge as we move ahead within healthcare, of how we include ChatGPT. So AI can be used in very administrative processes in healthcare, while ethical, like for booking an appointment, for reaching out to a physician, for knowing basic information about your medicine. That from ethically point, which you can find on Google in itself, might be okay. But as you go in depth, that is where most of the ethical guidelines to come in. And I think one thing for solving that would be actually involving diverse stakeholders, right? While you're implementing your solution and you are developing it, what kind of diverse stakeholders are you bringing to the table, who are able to basically provide you that feedback in development of your solution? And I think that is something that's key. And as we are thinking about developing our solution, that's constantly how we're thinking about it. It's not just us as a team or patients, it's how these all these different people who have experience can actually come and contribute to that. And then the last thing is actually regularly monitoring and assessing the impact that you're creating, right? Even with a chatbot, like who are the communities that are being impacted with it? What are their feedback? What are their surveys? What are their evaluations saying, right? And really closely monitoring each one of that at a very basic level, so that you know that the information that you're providing is having a positive or a negative feedback. And what are you doing about the negative feedback that's coming in, right? But information not correct. What kind of stakeholders are you going to? What kind of encryption models from technology point of view are you putting in? So I think it is a very technical point. When within healthcare, it becomes very difficult, and it's very distinguished to put it through. But I think as startups, that's what we're bound to do, to bring in with the new and the innovative techniques that we need to put forward. And we are really strengthened to solve some of these, and still use ChatGPT and AI in a positive aspect to improve patient care. And how can we overcome some of these? So that's what we are motivated to do, and really excited to provide that to the world globally.
That's excellent. So I'm really loving this discussion because of the diversity of thoughts and the depth of your knowledge. I'm really, really loving this. But because of the time, we have to stop. So my last question, and this is just for everyone. What is your message? I will start with Venki and then go to Francisca, Anzar, and Fiza. What is your message of the audience who are looking for ChatGPT as a new revolution? How they can learn and how they can best use of ChatGPT?
On a lighter vein, I just got to know that AI chatbot outperforms investment funds in stock selection. Right. So my suggestion would be, don't use, if you want to just make money fictitiously, use ChatGPT. Stick to your investment manager. So On a more serious note, go back to what Francisco mentioned, and I think Fiza and Anzar mentioned very. I think the success of chatbot, ChatGPT, or AI, or any such new technology that comes up is really our ability as humans. I mean, the question we need to ask ourselves as humans, Shaukat, is how will I add value? If nothing, it becomes more relevant today. We used to ask our kids, and we ask the younger generation, how will you stay relevant? How will you make a difference? And today, the question to ourselves is, how will I add value and keep myself relevant? I think that's the most important question. And obviously, which means you need to unlearn, you need to learn, you need to spend time understanding, because ChatGPT, considering that it is not a Google Translate or any of those normal translation engines, you have to be very careful about the tone, the tenor, the complexity of your question and the way you ask. And that is exactly how ChatGPT is going to treat you, right? So if you need to be taken for a walk 3 times a day, ChatGPT needs to understand that you need to be taken out 3 times a day. It's not enough to tell ChatGPT, take me for a walk. And I think
Excellent.
that for me is a huge change. And organizations and we as leaders, Fiza is probably going to put the roadmap for things like this, but we as leaders need to really explain to our C-level, to our organizations, to the board, that this is how ChatGPT need to be consumed. That is where the success of an organization will lie.
Excellent. Thank you, Venki. Francisca, your last words on this one.
Thank you so much. So don't share sensitive information, bottom line. And I really like what Venki was mentioning about questioning ourselves. Briefly, I remember when I started working on cybersecurity many years ago, and I was trying to explain how the internet works and why we need to make it secure. Many people were telling me, well, we're using many, let's say, technological products, and not necessarily we need to know how they're made for using them. And actually, when we start sharing personal information, and specifically in this case, when we start having a dialogue, let's say, so we need to ask ourselves also how these tools are designed, developed, and what is the impact that they have.
Absolutely.
Great. Anzar, what are your last thoughts?
Yes, I will say that use ChatGPT and any AI model for your performance, assuming that you have a support, intelligent or mentor beside you, and don't lean 100%. Use your logical mind and come up with the final conclusion. Thank you.
Very interesting. And Fiza?
I think everybody said it, making sure that as you're getting this information, what you're consuming out of it and what you're not is something that needs to come personally. And if you don't understand, there's always a startup out there probably solving that for you and can help you navigate if this information was correct or not. So maybe use some of those tools and find your way around of, is that the information to go after too? So I think both ways, it's really exciting to see the implications and the use cases that are coming out of this. But as we grow, I think it's more about understanding what the information we are consuming is correct or not, and how it will impact globally. So really excited to see that.
Excellent. Thank you very much for your participation and a very, very thoughtful discussion. And thank you to CXO Global Forum for organizing this session in collaboration with the Al Khan University. Thank you very much, all distinguished panel members. And I will be in touch with other thorough discussions in future. So thank you, and all the audience, thank you very much. I'm sure that you have got a lot of beneficial outcomes from this discussion, and then we will continue this. So thank you and have a very nice afternoon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey, Shaukat, thank you very much for doing this for us. Absolutely. And
thank you.
Great
Thank
members.
you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.